There are 4 different grains that I use for making grain spawn, growing mushrooms. Millet, rye, popcorn and wheat. The rye and the wheat are prepped in the same way, but the millet and the popcorn are a bit different. But today I'm going to use rye, and to start with, just get your rye, put it in a pan and soak it, cover it with water about 2 inches above, and then just soak it overnight. And that's the start of the preparation. Once the rye is soaked overnight, add a couple of tablespoons of gypsum and a tablespoon of coffee, and then bring it to a boil and simmer it for about 10 minutes. Once the rye has been simmered, strain it and then spread it out in a tray to dry it off a bit. The steam rises off and dries the seed coat a bit. The gypsum that we added in the mix helps stop the grains sticking together and adds a little bit of calcium, and coffee adds a bit of nitrogen. Once the grains cooled down a bit and dried off a little bit, put it into jars with about 3/4 full. So then if you want to inoculate it with another jar of grain, you can put a bit in there. And also it aids when you actually shake the jar up when the mycelium's grown. It's got a hole in the top with a couple of layers of micropore tape over it, and then cover that over with a bit of tin foil, and then put it in a pressure cooker. And then pressure cook that at 15 psi for 90 minutes. And that'll sterilise the grain. Then once cooled, you can inoculate it. Now that the jars have cooled down, they're placed in a still air box. But everything in the still air box and the still air box has been wiped down with 70% isopropyl alcohol. All the syringes, all the jars, everything. So you can inoculate the jar now with a liquid culture syringe. You want to put 2 or 3 ml in each jar. Then once you've put 2 or 3 ml of liquid culture in each jar, just give them a shake. And leave it somewhere to incubate. Doesn't have to be really warm, somewhere between 20 and 30 degrees is usually fine. Once the oyster mushroom mycelium is grown through the grain, it's then ready to use to inoculate the bulk substrate, like straw. Right, the heads have been taken off the rye, and I'm now cutting the straw for prepping to grow mushrooms on. Once you've got your straw, you're going to want to shred it up a bit. So, shred it up. Something like that, and then you can put it in a barrel for soaking. Once you've shredded the straw and added it to a barrel, add some calcium hydroxide. That's about 100 grams for about a third of a barrel. Then cover with water and then leave it to stand, like submerge the straw and then leave it overnight or even a couple of days. Once the straw's been soaked, drain it off and then add it to a bag or a bucket with holes in it. Load it with grain spawn, and that's a blue oyster mushroom on rye grain. And that's its finished bag, and it's basically the straw laid up with blue oyster grain spawn, and it's rye straw and rye grain in that one. And I'll leave that somewhere warm for a few weeks for my ceiling to grow through, and then put it somewhere slightly cooler, poke a few holes in it, and it should free. And after a few weeks, the mycelium runs through the bag and you get mushrooms. These are blue oyster mushrooms, and they're actually ready to harvest because the ends of the mushroom just starting to turn up slightly. That's when they start dropping the spores. So now's a good time to harvest. Already had one clump off here that was 600 grams. And this is a bucket you can grow in as well. So it's just a lidded bucket with holes drilled around the sides and a couple in the bottom for drainage. And you do exactly the same, you layer it up with straw and spawn and put a lid on it. And here's some grain on a bucket, or 2 buckets. And then, yeah, to crop them, you just pop them off. All right.